Hello and welcome again to Talk TV. Today we are honored with the presence of Danny Tarkanian. He is running for the United States Congress in a newly formed district here in Nevada, District number 4. Danny, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here in Pahrump.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, Danny, what motivated you to run for Congress?
Well, like I and most people around the country, we realize that our country is in a very, very dangerous spot right now. Hopefully it isn't past the point of no return. The very fabric that has made our country the greatest country in the world is under attack, and not too long we won't even recognize what our U.S. Constitution states. And I believe that the people here in Nevada, they want somebody who's not a career politician, not someone who is tied to special interest groups and lobbyists, not someone that just gives the same old partisan talking points, but someone who's going to go back to Washington, D.C. with real solutions to the serious problems we're facing, who's going to go back there, who's a fighter, who's resilient, who's determined, and shake up Washington, D.C. And I believe I'm that person.
Now, as you well know, the people out here in Nevada, and especially in this district that you would represent, meaning the rurals, people are pretty fiercely independent, and
Yes.
a lot of them have the opinion that big government can't solve anything.
Yeah.
Do you take the same opinion, or do you say, hey, look, there is a place for government and there are things that we can do?
Sure, well, there is a place for government, but it's a limited place. It's a very limited place. And our U.S. Constitution spells out what the federal government should be doing. And I am a firm believer that that we should do those things and put all of our resources behind those few limited purposes and do them great, and not try to solve all of society's ills where we can't do any of them very well. And we're encroaching upon all of the states' rights that were provided to the states in the 10th Amendment, and I believe that's wrong. I believe that's one of the biggest problems we're facing right now in our country, the encroachment of the federal government into what is rightly due the state and the private sector.
Yeah. You know, there's one that a lot of people feel like the federal government came in, threw a lot of money at it. I'm talking about Yucca Mountain.
Yeah.
And then, well, it's a bad idea and we're going to walk away from
Yeah.
it. What are your thoughts on Yucca Mountain?
First of all, it's not a bad idea, and it's a great opportunity for the people of Nevada. And we look at it the wrong way, and unfortunately, it's because when Yucca Mountain was first introduced, it was forced upon us. I mean, the rest of the country said, "You're going to take this whether you like it or not," and natural reflection is, "Hey, we're going to resist it." But now look where we're at. We have spent $12 billion building up the infrastructure of that location, and we can do something with it. Now, 2 years ago, when I ran for the U.S. Senate, I was the first candidate in Clark County that came out very strongly and advocated the use of Yucca Mountain. I proposed that we use it as a reprocessing facility of nuclear spent fuel, where people would you bring the nuclear spent fuel into the Yucca Mountain site, reprocess it, and ship it out. What the benefits you'd get from that is you'd create over $1 billion in annual revenue for the state, thousands of high-paying and good quality jobs. You'd turn Nevada and UNLV into the leading research institutions in the whole world. I really think it's something that we should consider and discuss. But as an elected leader here in the state, we need to do what our constituents want. And if they don't want reprocessing here, some argue that there could be some problems with transportation, which I don't agree with. Well, let's find another solution. Okay, let's find another use for it. I mean, we could turn Yucca Mountain into the world's largest and most suited military training base right now. The landscape is a lot like what we're fighting the terrorism right now overseas. We built the infrastructure already. We could have people coming in from all over the world and training here and bringing in economic activity here in Nye County would help in that regards. Another possible solution is turning into the world's largest data storage facility. Right now there is a very large data storage facility in Clark County called Switch, and the owner of that company wants to use Yucca Mountain to make it the largest in the world data storage facility. Again, another use of the $12 billion we've already spent. The worst thing we should be doing now is saying, let's close Yucca Mountain down, let's not use it, and just waste $12 billion when Nevada needs the jobs, they need the revenue. It's the right thing.
I think it would be hard to find anybody who would disagree with that. That's a big bill to just walk away
Yes.
from, $12 billion. So what do you see overall as being the problems that face the people of Southern Nevada in particular who you would represent and what you can do about it?
Well, everywhere I go, and it's not just here in CD4, although it is more magnified here, it's the economy and it's housing. People don't have jobs, and partially because they don't have jobs and or they're taking a reduction in salary, they can't afford their homes. We need to help solve that problem within the framework of what government is supposed to do. Now, government can make an impact in the economy by making it more business friendly for small businesses to create jobs. You're going to hear this from a lot of Republicans, but I'm a firm believer in this. We need to lessen the burdensome regulations that are out there that are strangleholding new businesses from starting up. Just a couple of days ago, I was in Tonopah, and I talked to a lady there who was explaining about these two new gold mines that locations that they found, and they want to start mining there. They went to the BLM and they said it's going to take 7 years before they can get permitted to get starting. Now, isn't something wrong with that? When we need jobs, we need gold, we need the tax revenues that come with all that, and we're going to let the federal government hold us up 7 years because of that? We need to fight against those type of regulations. In addition, we need to lessen the burdensome taxes that are already making it tough for small businesses to succeed. But government can do more than just that, and this is what differentiates me from most other candidates. You got to look outside the scope. And I've talked about, okay, nationally, what can we do as a federal government to help create jobs nationally? One is, I believe we should utilize all of our natural resources here in the United States for energy and allow each state to decide whether they want to explore, develop, and sell that type of energy. For example, in North Dakota right now, a state that was not doing great financially before, they are now producing shale oil and gas reserves. That state is prosperous. The unemployment rate is one of the lowest in the country. They have revenue that they're having a tough time spending there right now, and they're able to produce much needed energy here for the United States that we can consume. Mm-hmm. Well, each state, many of the states around the country have different resources they could utilize. Why are we preventing states from being able to develop resources they in that state want to produce? The federal government needs to get out of that and let the states get started with that. A second thing is, and I'm a believer that the federal government under the Commerce Clause has a responsibility to not only maintain but to modernize our infrastructure, our highway infrastructure. We should spend money on improving and maintaining the roads, bridges, dams, and the information highway here in the United States, but not the way Obama's talking about doing it or the way Obama's been implementing it. Obama and the federal government says, hey, if you want your tax dollars that you just paid us and you want to use it for some type of highway project, well, this is what it's going to be used for. This is how much you can spend on it, and this is who you're going to hire. Again, that's wrong. The states know what's best to use it for. Right. So let me give you a quick example. In Nevada, in Clark County, there was $800,000 that was provided from the federal government to the Nevada Department of Transportation to beautify an off-ramp on the I-215 highway. Well, that off-ramp looks beautiful now, but don't you think the people in Nevada and the Nevada Department of Transportation might have wanted to use that $800,000 for another purpose? Well, when we asked them why you spent the money on that, they told us that if they did not use it for the off-ramp, the federal government was not going to give them the money and it would go to another state. We need to stop that. Those two things are two things that we can do nationally. If we have a chance, I'll get into some things that we can do locally.
So it's not like the federal government's got bad ideas. It's just their iron-like grip on the control of how things get done that needs to be changed.
Again, I think they have a lot of bad ideas that they're doing, but in investing in our infrastructure, I don't believe is a bad idea, but they don't know what the people of Nevada need and how to spend the money. They don't know what the people in each of these different states know, like the people in the states, they know what's best. What I'm saying is let's give back in block grants to each of the states and the percentage of taxes that they're paying into the federal government that would go towards transportation needs or infrastructure needs in that state, and let the state decide how to spend the money.
Yeah, well, I can agree with that because the needs of the people in the state of Mississippi vary greatly from what they do here in Nevada, and you just can't make a one-size-fits-all.
Yes. And what happens is the special interest groups get involved in all this. They say, somebody who's got some influence with some legislators that want to add this pork project into the bill so they can get a job or make some revenue for their company. They get involved instead of taking care of who we're supposed to take care of, and that's our constituents.
All right, great. Hey, we're going to take a real quick break right now, and when we come back, I'd like to talk a little bit about Bill Raggio, who passed away. You did know him, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. We'll have that when we come back and more in our conversation with Danny Tarkanian. Don't go anywhere.
Tire Works is your one-stop shop for complete car care with a full range of services, including oil changes, AC, brakes, alignments, and tune-ups. We carry the largest selection of tires at the lowest prices guaranteed. As a proud member of the Better Business Bureau, we stand behind our service and products. Short on cash? We've got financing. For the lowest prices on tires and auto repair, call 365-TIRE or visit one of our 14 convenient locations. Tire Works Total Car Care, not your typical tire and service company.
Give me the works. Give me Tire Works.
And welcome back. Again, we are here today with Danny Tarkanian, who is running for the House of Representatives for District 4, the new district that was formed here in Nevada after the last census. So, Danny, tell us a little bit about the new district, what part of the state is compromising that, and maybe how it's unique.
It's interesting the way they drew it up. They drew up District 4, where it encompasses 85% of Clark County and all of North Las Vegas. And I believe this district was drawn up to provide a safe seat for Democrat State Senator Stephen Horsford. His whole state Senate district is in there, and he is the one that feels very confident that he's going to win this race. The only problem is they also included, and the only problem for him, but good for Republicans and conservatives alike, is that it encompasses the middle part of rural Nevada. Now, in that part, there's 15% of that district will be rural Nevada people. And as you mentioned earlier on the show, rural Nevada people are independent people. They don't like the government getting involved in their lives. They don't like the government telling them what kind of health insurance they should buy, what kind of money, how they should spend their money on their transportation rights. They don't want somebody infringing upon their gun rights. These are things that Stephen Horsford is in favor of that I believe will be repudiated by rural Nevada. So the right Republican can come in here and win this race. And I analyzed this race carefully before I got into it. I believe it fits me very, very well, and I have a great chance to win here. It encompasses a lot of old-time Las Vegas people that my family and I know, and I believe that I'll do very well with them. It encompasses a lot of the rural Nevada, as I mentioned, that my family and I, my wife and kids have traveled throughout that area and established long and solid relationships with people in that area, so I think I'm going to do well there. Plus, I believe they really believe that they want somebody with good conservative ideas that also has solid solutions to the problems we're facing. So I'm looking forward to this race.
And not being a career politician
Yes.
that you look upon as a plus.
I believe me, everywhere I go, I hear people say, I'm tired of seeing the same career politicians. They tell you one thing when they're campaigning, and then they go back to whatever office it is, and they give the party line, they vote the way the special interest groups and the lobbyists want them to vote, and they forget about the people of Nevada. I believe the people want, and not just want, they need an elected leader to go back to Washington, D.C., fight for what's best for them, be independent of all these special interest groups, independent of the party establishment, and show some type of fight, determination, and resiliency. And I will do that for the people here in CD4.
Hey, while we're on the subject of impressions of elected officials, I saw where Congress as a whole, and that I'm sure encompasses the House and the Senate, has an approval rating of 11%. Just your thoughts on that, why it is, what can be done about it, and what does it really mean, the 11%?
I think it's very clear. It's the people who go back to Washington, D.C., these career politicians, they go back there and they start getting into this partisan fighting. They start taking, they have the same talking points, whether it's a Republican, they have the Republican talking points, the Democrats theirs. There is nothing getting done. There's just a log jam. There's no more statesmen anymore. It's just partisan politicians, and the people are fed up with that, and they want somebody back there that's different.
Okay. Well, speaking of statesmen, we're going to talk about one who passed away just last night, Bill Raggio. That and a final wrap-up when we come back.
Are you ready for this?
It's really good.
There's a new network that's home to all your favorite movies and so much more.
That's just fine.
This TV.
You're in capable hands.
Prepare to laugh. Prepare for battle. Prepare to be entertained. This TV. To find where This TV is in your area and what great movies are playing, log on to thistv.com.
Welcome back, and we are going to continue our conversation with Danny Tarkanian, who is running for the House of Representatives for District 4, the new district formed out of the last census, and that's where we are, Pahrump. So listen up. I think the man has some good ideas for us, right? Okay, Danny, I just wanted to talk real briefly on Bill Raggio. He was a stalwart and almost a legend in the state of Nevada, and they said that he would reach across the aisle, he would do what it takes, he would work things out. Your thoughts on Bill?
Well, what I loved about Bill was he was a statesman as opposed to a politician. Now, you may not have agreed with all of his positions, and I know that there are some conservatives that were upset with his position with Harry Reid. But I'm going to tell you a story about Bill that I think exemplifies him personally, perfectly. Bill had been a family friend of ours because he was a big supporter of UNLV basketball, and my father. And when I ran for the Secretary of State's office, I called him up and asked his for endorsement. I had a primary. And Bill said, Danny, I can't. I've already endorsed another gentleman named Brian Scroggins, and the one thing I have in my life that I won't change is my word. And whatever I tell you, my word is my bond, and I stick by it, so I got to endorse him. But if you win that primary, I'll do everything I can to help you. And true to his word, he helped me every way he could in that race, and I really respected him. I've never seen him get upset. I've never seen him lose his temper, and seldom have I heard him take cheap shots at any other public official that he may have disagreed with.
Wow, we could use a lot more of that these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just want to touch briefly, too, on the presidential race that's going on right now. The Republican field is down to 4, and looks to me like there is a pretty wide variance in the stances that they all take, their approaches to everything. You were telling me earlier, though, that you don't get into endorsements so much. Yeah. If it's a Republican, you'll be happy.
Well, I just don't think in a primary, particularly one as important as this upcoming presidential election, that you want to get in and endorse somebody and then somebody else wins and there's division or resentment going in the general election. We need a united front because the most important thing is we need to beat Barack Obama in the general election. So I'm going to support whichever candidate's out there. I like some things about each candidate, and there's some things that disappoint me with each one. But I'm going to be fully supportive of whoever wins.
You know, another thing about rural Nevada, a lot of people, I think there's some resentment that the federal government owns so much of Nevada.
Yeah.
And they say, you know what, you can't tell me I can't go out on this BLM land or I can't do this or that. Do you think it would actually be realistic to get the federal government to maybe allocate land to us or sell it to us or
first
get
of all,
it back into the hands of the private sector?
That's a great point, and it's something that I've advocated not only in my last election, but I am going to in this one. First and foremost, there's 2 million acres of land that's already been designated as the protected environmental land, and Harry Reid is trying to get more of that allocated here in Nevada, which means that you can't have any motorized vehicles unless you have a horseback. You can't go fishing and hunting in certain areas, and I think that's wrong. I mean, that land should be used for the benefit of the people here in Nevada, and I'm going to fight for that. Second of all, the BLM has control over a lot of vital and very valuable commercial property that should be taken out of the BLM control immediately and given back to the state. I don't see why the state should have to pay for that. It's our land, though, and we should be able to utilize it to diversify our economy and bring in other businesses. And I'll give you an example. There's hundreds of acres of BLM land held in South Las Vegas Boulevard, not too far from the highway coming up here to Pahrump. Why not let Governor Sandoval and his team of economic advisors to use that land to entice businesses like Boeing and others that are leaving other states to relocate here in Nevada and help diversify our economy? I will go back to Washington, D.C., and I'm going to fight for those kind of changes.
You know, you were talking earlier, too, about the gold that's been found up north and how they would like to go in and open some new mines, and the red tape would stretch out for 7 years before they could even begin mining it. That seems like it's so ingrained as the policy of Washington, D.C., of, getting it done faster doesn't matter. If it takes us forever to do it, that's how it's going to be. What does it take to get rid of that kind of thinking?
Sure. Well, the partisan politicians and the career politicians that are in there that have it's engraved in their mind that they won't do anything to change it. You need somebody with some fresh blood who's going to go out there and fight for these changes. And it's so easy and possible. Last week I was in Yerington for the opening of the mine up there, the copper mine, and I asked the gentleman there. I said, "Does it take 7 years for to get permitting for BLM land? And he said yes, but if it's state owned, if it's privately owned land here in the state, it only takes 2 years. Well, why can't they get the process with the same environmental test, the same test to protect our environment and our public safety done in 2 years when it's with the state, but 7 years with the federal government? There's something wrong with that, and we can't stand for that during these dire economic times.
Yeah, and it really surprises me too that it would take that long for something like mining, which is a staple of Nevada economics, and surely we have everything in place to open a mine. It's not like that's our first rodeo.
Yeah, again, it's just the federal bureaucracy, and the people are just, it's in their mindset that this is the way it works and we're not going to change, and we need to shake up Washington.
Okay, well, any final thoughts today, Danny, on what you would like to achieve and how people can get involved in your campaign?
Well, first and foremost, I want everybody to understand how important this election is. It's not just for representation in whether it's Republicans or Democrats of Washington, D.C., but the Democrats have nominated a guy to run for this seat. And this is the same individual that sent out a letter to the lobbyists and special interest groups demanding $25,000 to come and meet with them for dinner. And this is the type of representation he will provide to this district. I believe it's important to get someone in office who will represent the interests of the people first and foremost, and someone who has been a proven fighter and who's been resilient, and I'm that person. I hope that you will give me the chance to go back and be your representative. I'll have an open door policy. I'll be available for people to come in and contact me and give me their input. And if anybody wants to help in my campaign, you go to my website. It's my first and last name.com. So it's DannyTarkanian.com.
Okay. Well, very good. I'd like to thank Danny Tarkanian for coming in today. And as he said, if you're interested and you'd like to get involved in his campaign, DannyTarkanian.com. Best of luck to you, Danny, and hopefully we'll see you back here sometime.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.